Can you hear me, Eric?
Yes, hi.
How you doing? Did you have a nice holiday?
Yeah, it was nice.
Good. Did you get to do any work over the holiday?
Yes, I sent you some. I see three of those files that are mine.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
You did the Arctic landscape, the candies, and the X-Wing, right?
Right.
Good. How did you like doing the candies? Melissa, did you try doing the candy?
No, sir. I took 2 weeks off to spend with my family. I didn't do any schoolwork.
Oh, that's okay. Did you watch the videos at all or no?
Not yet,
No,
but I
you should
will.
go check them out. I think you'll enjoy it. Eric, how did you like the videos? Did it help?
Yes, it did. I learned some things. I was already familiar with the 3D stuff, but but you still taught me some of the intricacies, like the lighting that I didn't know
Yeah.
about. Yeah. So it was still very helpful, very fun to do.
Good. Well, tonight and tomorrow night, what we're going to do is we're going to concentrate pretty much on your final project, which is a bottle, which actually you don't even have to render. They've rendered the bottle for you. But I'm going to go through the whole process of how you render a bottle because I think you should know how to do it. And while I'm at it, I got a whole bunch of stuff that I have rendered in 3D that I'm going to show you all of it tonight and tomorrow night. We're going to spend the entire time just looking at all this stuff and talking about it. So be prepared to ask me anything you want to ask, and we'll have a big, long discussion about it, and hopefully by the time we get done, you'll feel very confident to actually use these filters. And I really do believe that you should learn how to use them because they are pretty good considering the fact that we're talking about a two-dimensional program and not a 3D program. I mean, Illustrator is not a 3D program. It just isn't. So to have the ability to do the things that it does and to do it as easily as it does is amazing. So, Mike, I see Mike, you're back. What happened? Did you get lost, Mike? You got banged out?
No, while you guys were talking, I figured I'll go ahead and resend all those images to you.
Oh, all right. Which images did you get?
Well, actually, the one for the logos that we were supposed to do for, I believe, week 3, the Infinity ones I was telling you about, those are in there. And then the ones I did on my own.
Okay. All right. Well, you know what? Let me go get them since I'm here. Let me do that. Let me get them. Might as well get them. You sent them, you emailed me? You emailed me?
Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah.
All right. Take a minute. There we go.
And I have to pick other colors other than gray. Gray and black.
All right, here we go.
And
you do have a bunch of them.
Yeah, I think a few of them was ones I did for my associate's degree or on my own.
Okay. Let me get them. Like I say, we have 2 nights, and we only have one thing this week, the final, which is at 3D modeling. So in order for me to get us through 4 hours of that, we have to do some other, I have to come up with some other stuff as well. So hopefully we can do some talking. And I think Mike said he had some questions that he wanted to ask me. So I'm going to give him the opportunity to do that. And we'll look at the work that you guys sent in. We'll talk about that. And then I'll spend as much time as I can playing around with different 3D stuff. Now, listen, I want to tell you that my website, WRS Design, is 3D. I did almost all of the characters, not characters, but most of the graphics that are in there are done with 3D. At least half of the graphics that I have on that site. Like, for instance, I've rendered pencils in 3D. I've rendered pens. I've rendered Sharpies, highlighters. You should go and take a look at that. Maybe if you want, I'll go to that site and show it to you. You should see they're very realistic. What you can do with this is amazing. You can make some incredibly realistic 3D rendered elements. I'll take you there and show you.
That design club you were telling me about, is it just called Design Club or?
I'll show you that in a minute too. I'll show you that in a minute too. So this is my website. There's evidently something wrong with it because I'm not getting there. This is supposed to be a 3D, not a 3D, but a flash. And for some reason, this flash, allow now. Here we go. Okay, here we go. There's the flash. This for some reason my browser decided it didn't want to run this. This is a flash that I did of all my graphics, but that's not why I'm here. I'm not here to show you that. I'm here to show you the rest of the site. Now, are you guys familiar with are you familiar with Adobe Muse?
No, I always use Dreamweaver.
Well, you should look into Muse. You probably have CS6 on your computer, and if you
Actually, on my PC, I have CC, and on my Mac, I have CS6.
That's what I mean. I'm sorry. You have CC, Creative Cloud. So in your Creative Cloud, all of you, Melissa and Eric, you guys got Creative Cloud?
Yes.
Yeah. So you guys all have Adobe Muse. Let me tell you what Adobe Muse is. You guys are familiar. You're familiar with Adobe InDesign?
Yeah.
Yes.
You know how InDesign works? You create boxes and you place things on your page in the boxes, and you can move them around, resize them, do whatever you want with them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay. With Dreamweaver, it's very hard to do that, right?
Yeah.
You have to build things. You have to build things much differently, don't you?
It's a very problematic program.
Yeah. Adobe Muse is set up, and this website that I did here is created in Adobe Muse. Adobe Muse is set up in such a way that it functions almost like Adobe InDesign. So you can literally drag and drop things wherever you want, and the code is automatically written for you, and it's good code. So everything that you see here, all these little pieces of tape, this little patch of white with the WRS design on it, this element here, the little registration marks here, the paper clips, these are all elements. This thing here, the graphic design tape down, the pen, every one of those elements are elements that I brought in and dragged them around and placed them where I wanted them. It's incredibly fun and easy. Even this down here, everything you see here was done that way.
Wow.
Yeah, I think you'll really love it. So here, look at that pen. That pen was done in the 3D modeling program. This pen here, the Sharpie, was done with the 3D modeling program. I did go online, however, and I grabbed that logo and I created outlines on that logo. I didn't create outlines. I mean, I brought it into oh Christ, what's the name of it?
Adobe Illustrator?
Object image trace. I couldn't think of the words. Image traced this. I found the logo online, the Sharpie logo online, brought it in and image traced it. But the rest of the pen, that is not a picture of a Sharpie pen. That's a Sharpie pen rendered in Adobe 3D. That's why I want to show you it, and that's why I want to point it to you, because you can, I mean, doesn't that look like a real Sharpie?
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yes.
What?
Yes, it does.
And, you know, you just keep going down. There's more and more things that I just dragged in place here. Here's an X-Acto knife. Have any of you ever seen an X-Acto knife?
Yes.
Yes.
I use it with associates.
Yeah, I used to use them all the time. So that's an X-Acto knife. And this pencil, look at that. Can you believe that that pencil was done in 3D? That is a 3D rendered pencil.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's amazing what you can do with it. And actually, on my portfolio area, when I scroll down in my portfolio area, there's also this, the Sharpie highlighter. It looks real, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's not.
Yes.
All 3D. And basically, how did I do it? Here's another Sharpie pen that I did. Look at the barrel. Look at all the detail that this can do. I mean, you can get all that detail in there. You know how it's done? Every one of those areas, every one of these areas, this top of the barrel here is one part of the draw. And these are not drawings, mind you. What they are is basically their edges. What you do is you create an edge, a profile. I'm going to show you tonight how to do it again. You create a series of profiles, and each one of these little areas here are part of a profile, and that's how you get that shape. And then what you do is you color some of the areas of the profile, and you position some in front of the other, and then when you select the whole profile, everything right on down the line, and rotate it, voila, it comes out looking just like that. It is nuts. And this is a 3D. Now this piece here is not part of the 3D rendered object. That's something that I created in Illustrator and applied to the side because I needed it to go on the side of this. But the actual pen is 3D. So I can rotate this in any direction that I want if I, wanted to. It's really pretty amazing. So that's my site. It's a Muse site. I think you guys should look into Muse. It's something that you'll like very much. And this is, again, one of the reasons I'm showing this is because in here I am using 3D stuff, and that's why I'm here showing you it. I don't have these pieces with me tonight to show you, so I figured the best thing I could do is take you to the site. You could take a look at them right here on the site. Okay?
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay, so I got your stuff. Oh, wait, did it not go in there? Wait a minute, where did it go? Where did his stuff go? You see the stuff in there? Did I miss putting it in there somehow? Wait a minute. Go back to this.
I know you were downloading.
All right, so this is Tribal Cat. Okay, that's in there. All right, Tribal Cat. Let me see. The next one is Define Eye. Okay, so I guess I didn't get them in there. And then the other one is the Infinity logo, which I think I got. No, I didn't get them either. Okay, did I get all of them? That's all of them?
No.
There's more?
Yeah, because there's 2 Affinity logos and a couple of...
Let me see. I maybe missed it. Let's see. Whoops. All right, so I have, let's see here. So we got week 3 logo. Do I got that in there? Let me see.
Yeah.
That's in there? Okay. Tribal Eye Tattoos JPEG? No?
No.
No. Okay, so let's download that. All right. Tribal Eye, there we go. Okay, and the next one is Nice Design. Do I have Nice Design in there? I don't see it. Do I have it? No. No. Okay, Nice Design. Let's put that in there. All right, and let's get, is there any more? Let's see. Tribal Cat, done. Did I get Tribal Cat done? Yeah. And Define Eye, download. I got that, right? And Infinity logo. These are, yeah, I got them. Okay. All right, so there you go. I got them. All right, so we're going to look at all this stuff in a moment, but I do believe, Mike, you had some questions. And I don't know whether Eric and Melissa, whether you have any questions or not. Mike has a few questions he wants to ask me. So I'm going to let him ask those questions, and I'm going to see if I can help answer them for him, okay?
Sure.
Go ahead, right, let's say I go to thefont.com. I grab a font that's free. I install it into the program. Then I do the design. I put the font in it, and then when I go to save it, I get all these warnings. Why? Because like when I go to save it, I get a ton of warning about the fonts.
Okay, so here's what I think. I've had something similar happen to me. Here's what I had happen to me. I used some fonts, and when I tried to save the Adobe Illustrator file, I'm using Adobe Illustrator in this example. When I tried to save the Adobe Illustrator file, I got a warning telling me that even though it's a free font, I'm not allowed to save the font. The font will not save in the document. So what I had to do in order to save that font is I had to type create outlines. And then, go ahead.
I don't mean to cut you off, but and then like when I go to reopen the design,
the font's
it's like
gone.
Different because everything just like vanishes.
Right. So what I'm saying is, if you're going to use the font, the thing to do is either live with the fact that it's going to go away and you're going to have to reapply it when you open it, which you can do. You can reapply it. You can, go in and you can put the font back in it. But apparently they've got it set up in such a way that you can use the font, look at it, and if you're smart enough, you can go and you can create outlines on the font, and then you basically got it. But you can't keep it as editable text. So what I'm saying is that if you're working with a font and you are going to end your work for the time being, live with the fact that when you come back later, it's not going to be there and you're going to have to go in and reapply it, or you're going to have to go type create outlines and turn it into outline text, which means you no longer have editing capabilities. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay. Do either one of you guys, Melissa or Eric, do either one of you know anything different than what I just told them? Or have you had any similar experiences?
No, that's what I would do too, make it outline.
Have you ever had that happen, though, where the text literally said it's not going to let you save it?
No, I don't think I've seen that before. I don't remember seeing that.
Yeah, I've seen it a couple of times. Melissa, have you ever had that happen to you?
Well, I saved some fonts from the font that once I opened it, then I noticed it said for personal use only. So I assume I just didn't use it then because I assumed that I was going to have problems if I tried to save it,
Well, you should have tried to save it to see. I think what they were trying to say to you for personal use, I think that they were trying to limit the use of it. They wanted you to give them some money to use the font for professional jobs. I think that's basically what it is. They don't really want you to use it professionally, but you could use it for anything for yourself, I guess, is what they're really trying to say there. When you got it, it was free, right? It was a free font.
It was a free font, but then once you download it into your computer, then it
limited the usage.
Yeah, it says personal use only.
Right. Now let me ask you this: where you got that font for free, was there a way that you could have paid a small fee for it?
I didn't look any further. I just
okay. Because sometimes if they have a fee, if you pay a fee, then they waive that right, and you could use it for whatever you want to use it for.
Yeah.
But I think if you use the font personally, you could go type create outlines, and you could turn it into graphic shapes.
Yeah.
And then you could go in and tinker with the font if you wanted to do that.
So I should create an outline before I save it?
Well, yeah, I would try doing that, but the problem with that is then when you do that, you're no longer able to edit it as text. So that's the problem with it, So if it's the kind of thing that you've decided you're going to use that font, and you've pretty much done what you wanted to do with the font from a type standpoint, then go ahead and create outlines. I mean, I create outlines often. There are a lot of times when I'll be working on something, and at a certain point, I'm just like, okay, well, you know what? I'm not going to be doing any more changing of this type. This type is where I want it to be and what I want it to look like. So I go in and I go type create outlines. And this way, I no longer have to deal with the issues of types or fonts or any of that. It's just basically their shapes. Because to be honest with you, text, when text are created, they're shapes. But then what they do is they do some very special things to them to make them into fonts that behave like regular fonts do. I don't know anything about it because I don't do it, but there are people out there that know how to do this stuff, and they probably make beaucoup money, more than I make, that's for sure. So you got another question? Yeah, did I answer your question, Mike?
Yeah, you answered that one. How do I use the eraser tool?
So the eraser tool, let me show you. So here's the eraser.
Me up a wall.
All right, so here's the eraser tool. Let me come over here and let me move this out of the way. And let me get a rectangle. And let me come over here and let me make a rectangle. So the eraser tool essentially does this. You select the object and you come in and you erase over the shape. That's really what you're doing. And you see what it does? It takes the shape and it literally eats away the piece that it's sort of the opposite of the blob tool. Let me find the blob tool. Where the heck's the blob tool?
When I try to use the eraser tool, it looks like at first it looks like it's taking it away, but then it puts it right back.
You know why? I'll tell you why. Because you're using it like this. Oh, wait a minute. No, it's doing it. Look, no, it's going. Even deselected, it's eating it away. I thought maybe that happened because you were, because you didn't have it, you hadn't have it selected. Where's the blob tool? I can't even remember where the blob tool is. Shape builder,
Paintbrush, wasn't it?
blob tool. I don't use it very often, so I always.
Was it in your paintbrush?
Your paper.
Maybe, yeah. Oh, yeah, there it is, the blob brush tool. Okay, so what the blob brush tool does is this. It paints fills. That's not a path, it's a fill. So it paints fills. So, and you can change the size of the blob brush just by dragging. I'm using the, the fancy bracket keys on your keyboard?
Yes.
Okay, I'm hitting the right bracket, and I'm making it bigger, and then I'm painting with the blob tool. And then I'm using the left bracket to make it smaller, and then I'm painting with the blob tool. And so basically what you would do is, if you're going to work with these tools, I probably would put them out here, sort of like this, and then you can kind of go back and forth between the blob tool and the erase tool, and you can keep playing around with this and creating all kinds of cool shapes, you know what I mean? See? You can do really crazy stuff with it just by coming in here and, working and see what I'm doing? Creating all kinds of cool stuff with it.
I wonder why my erase tools don't do that.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite get that. You blurred out on me. What?
I say, can you change the shape, or is it always a circle?
The blob?
Either one.
All right, let's see. Let's double click on the blob tool. And what you can do with the blob tool is you can play around with the fidelity. Right now, this is about mid-range fidelity. You can also keep it selected, merge only with selection. And what you can do is you can change the size here, which doesn't make any sense to do because, as I told you, the right and left bracket key is better. And then you can go and you can deal with the angle on the thing, and you can play around with the roundness. So even though you can't make square shapes, you can come in here and you can create like these kind of shapes like that. You see what I mean?
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. And then, of course, you could do different sizing. And like that. And then as far as the eraser is concerned, you can double click on the eraser and you more or less got the same thing. You can change the angle, you can change the size, you can change the roundness. Okay, so you end up getting something like this. Again, you're limited in what you can do, like this. But you can see you can create some. That's pretty strange stuff, isn't it?
Yep.
You just do crazy stuff with it. Look at that. That's great. I love it. Actually, it's a lot of fun. I just don't have a tremendous amount of use for it. Although every once in a while I'll create shapes and I just won't be able to get the shape exactly right. And I'll go in and I'll add a little bit to it, or I'll knock a little bit away with it with the eraser tool or the blob tool. So while I don't do a lot of really hard work with it, I do a lot of tweaking with it. Every once in a while, I'll go in and I'll tweak stuff like that. Mike, does that answer your question?
Well, I'm kind of curious on why mine takes it away for a second but puts it back.
Well, are you do you have fills that you're trying to erase or blob to?
Like if you look at the MDC, remember when you were talking about that one piece with that connected the D and the C was a little bit off?
Yeah.
Like if I was to take that and erase that little piece away, it'll put it right back.
Well, let me ask you this. Did you create outlines on those letters?
No.
That's the problem. They're text. You can't, this won't work on text. You have to take them and turn them into graphic shapes. This is what I'm talking about, in case you don't know what I'm talking about. I'm going to just type the letter A, B, or A, B, C. Okay, so now I got A, B, C. Now let's make A, B, C really big. Let's come in here and make it kind of big. There we go, make A, B, C really big. There we go. So now I got A, B, C. Let me move this out of the way here for a second. Okay, so I come in here and I get the blob brush tool and I can paint, but I'm not painting that text. See? And if I come over here and I try to erase this, see? It won't let me erase it. And the reason it won't let me erase it, even if I shut it off, Watch, it won't let me erase that. That's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, why is that? Check it out. That's why. That's what it looks like when it's text. I can change this anytime I want, okay? So if I do this, type, create outlines, now do you see what it looks like?
Yeah.
Okay. Now if you go in here, you can take your eraser tool and you can erase this and it will go away.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the key. The key is that what you're doing is you're trying to erase text, live text. And live text is sort of protected from this tool in its own little envelope. And once you turn this into graphic shapes like I just did, see, now these guys are individual graphic shapes that are grouped together. That's why even though these pieces are separate, they all highlight because they're still grouped. If I go up here and go Object Ungroup, now watch. See, because I've ungrouped it, that piece highlights and the rest of this don't. That piece highlights and the rest of it don't. Get it?
Yeah.
Now, remember I was talking about the letter B being, and the letter A and the letter D being a compound path?
Yeah.
Okay, so if I were to take this shape and put that shape behind it, and if I were to make that shape red, you would, oh, didn't go red. Maybe if I dragged it up here, and there it's red. Okay, go Object, Arrange, Send to Back. Can you see that the red is showing through the letter B?
Yeah.
Okay, that's because it's a compound path. Now, if you take that B and you go up to the Object menu and you go Compound Path Release, watch what happens. Okay? Now what I did was I separated the two elements that created that B. That's the element and that's the element that work together to create that hole in that letter B. That's a compound path. And I can take any letter like that apart if it, now I can't this one because this is no longer, it's broken. But if it weren't broken, this would have a compound path associated with it too. And I could take this thing and put it back in here like this and then select both of them and go Object, Compound Path, Make, and I've just put that B essentially back together. That's a compound path. That's how this works. Was somebody going to ask me a question? I think Melissa, were you going to ask me something?
No, it's me, Eric. Could you do that again? I didn't catch that all.
Yeah. So you've got the letter A, you got the letter D, and you got the letter B. So every one of those three letters, actually, let me go edit, undo. Let me go back here for a minute. Let's undo this a bit. Let me go back and get these things put back together because it'll probably make a little more sense if I could show you.
You can just press the Command Z. I like doing that.
Yeah, I'm just. All right, let me go Control Z.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay, so there I have three letters now. Okay, Object Ungroup. So now all three of these letters are ungrouped. There's the letter A, there's the letter B, and there's the letter D. And each one of those letters, and the reason I chose A, B, and D is because they all are compound paths. And the compound paths essentially, as I was saying to you, if I make a shape and go like this and go Object, Arrange, Send to Back, and then if I put color into it, like maybe let's go yellow this time, hit that, hit OK. Now what you're seeing is you're seeing the whole from the compound path, the A, the B, right? And if you take the B and move the B up a little bit, you can see that where it is not over the yellow, you're seeing the background. So that's essentially made by a compound path. The compound path, let me zoom in and show you. Compound path is this guy right here. See that black line there?
Mm-hmm.
And you see those two little black lines right there? Actually, they're blue lines with anchor points.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there are three individual shapes. There's that shape, there's that shape, and there's the outer B shape. With this selected, if I go up to the Object menu and come down to Compound Path and go release, then the three elements are then released from their compound path relationship. And I can take those three elements and I can move those three elements apart. And now what you're looking at the three more or less graphic shapes. They're just simple shapes, more or less. I mean, they have some form to them and all because the designer designed these letters, but these are basic shapes, really. They're three basic shapes. And when you put those three basic shapes in the proper position and select all three of them and go compound path make, you end up with what looks like a letter B.
Wow.
Any one of those closed letters. This is the same thing over here. Same letter. It's same object. Compound path, release, and you got the same thing going on there. And it's the same thing with the letter A. Object, compound path, release, and you got the letter A. It's made out of two shapes. Of course, I got to deselect it and grab the piece, but there you have it. And you can take this thing and you can change its relationship with the A. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select those two letters and go object, compound path, make. And look what happens. Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
And you could come in here and you could do something like this where you could go like that, or you could go like this, and then select all three of these. Object, compound path, make, and you end up with a shape like that. You know? So you can do some pretty wild stuff with this. You could even go like this if you want. Object, compound path, make. So you can go in and you can play around with this stuff and create new shapes and do some creative things with it.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I use it quite frequently when I'm making shapes, like if I want to make a window or something for some element that I'm working on, or if I have done this many times. I've gone in and modified text with this. I do this a lot with text. It's something that I learned a long time ago, and it's very valuable. It's a very valuable little trick, compound path.
Yeah,
okay?
That's cool.
Now, Mike, any other questions?
I can't remember right now.
Okay.
So right now.
All right. Then you know what? For now, here's what we'll do. Let's go in and take a look at some of the work. I'm going to start with the Arctic landscape, okay? That's you, Eric, right?
Yep.
Okay. So here's my question for you. When you created those stars, I mean, it looks to me like what you did was you created a series of stars and you placed them.
Yep.
Okay. Did you create a symbol and did you spray them up there with the symbol sprayer and do things with the symbol tools?
No, I didn't think of doing that till after I did it. No.
Yeah. It would have been very valuable for you to go in there and actually work with the symbol tool, because what you could then do is you could even create a more arbitrary arrangement of these stars, which might, I mean, this is very decorative in appearance, but the arbitrary relationship might be an interesting look as well.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
I understand. But yeah, I just made the star shape and then copied it several times and changed the sizes, did it all manually.
Yeah. Well, I think if you read my comment, I saw this when you submitted it. If you read my comment, whoops, what happened here? Arctic landscape. I have a number of them open. That's what it is. Yeah, my comment was that I really liked the graphic nature of this, and I thought to myself, I'd like to see him actually work out a series of images and see if he could develop this style. A lot of designers, a lot of graphic people come up with an original style. And this, to me, looks like it has the potential to be a kind of a personal style that you might want to explore and try to develop.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy doing this? Is this the way you work? Do you feel comfortable working this way?
Well, I learned a lot of new stuff. I did this from a tutorial.
Okay.
I didn't do this from my head.
Oh, okay. Okay. So this is somebody else. Somebody else more or less did this, and you kind of followed along.
Yeah, it had
Okay.
step-by-step directions, and I had to do it myself.
Yeah.
Like for example, the penguin or the mountains, it didn't say how to draw them. It just said draw this.
Yeah.
And I had to figure out how to draw them myself.
Okay.
But
It's a very nice image, and it works out pretty nice. There's some things that you could do. You could even create symbols of the penguin, draw the penguin. I assume basically what you did was you created one penguin, and then you just copied and pasted the penguin and adjusted the size.
right, yep.
Right. But what I'm saying is if you had created the penguin and turned him into a symbol, you could then bring the symbol out, and you could just scale the symbol. The stars, you could create one star, put it in there, create a symbol, and then you could use the sprayer and the shader and all the different tools to modify the stars, and you could have a very colorful and animated sky of stars. Where this is very designer, it's kind of designy.
Mm-hmm.
You would have had something maybe a little bit more fluid if you had used the sprayer tools and the shape shifter tools and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yeah. I have a problem with remembering all this stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can get hard to remember. Oh yeah, there's that feature there.
So what I would do, here's what I would do if I were you. I would take this project and I would duplicate it. And then I would go in and I would remove all of those stars except for one. And then I would take that in and I would, save it as a separate file, keep the original, but save this as a separate file. Remove all the stars except one, turn the star into a symbol, and then play around with your tools, the symbol tools, and get used to what they do. There's like 4 or 5 tools in there. And you could even, if you want, go to YouTube. YouTube will show you videos as to how to use those tools. You won't need much more than a very brief explanation of how they work to get what you need to go in and play with them. And if you play with them, after you play with them for a short while, it'll become apparent what they do. And then it's just a matter of kind of getting the feel for it, the hang for it, the control for it, And maybe try to do the same thing with the penguin. Get rid of those 2 penguins. And create one penguin as a symbol, and then bring the other penguins out as symbols.
Yeah. It would be fun to play with.
Did you come up with the colors yourself on this thing?
No, the colors were suggested by the tutorial too.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
So a lot of it, you have a lot of direction coming into this thing. That's very nice, though. I like the way it works, and I like the idea. I like the idea of the gradients overlaying the sort of like the peaks of snow. They work really nice. The highlighting areas and the shadowing areas. Did you cut them apart? Are they different pieces?
I first made the overall mountain shape. And then I used the pen tool to make the squiggly top.
Yeah.
And overdid it and then cut it out.
Yeah. Yeah, you can tell that's the way to break the gradients, and then you can redirect the gradients to do something slightly different, and it works very well. I mean, it almost looks like transparent mountains, and the top areas are kind of like exposed to more sunlight than the low areas, and that's why it's getting that highlight. It works nice. Yeah. It works really nice. And I even like I even like up here the way you've kind of like made these clouds very graphic. I think you probably could have figured out something better to do with this planet. I think this is probably a little harsh, these shapes up here. You probably could figure out something to do with that, maybe a little bit better. But that would be the only weak link on the entire thing. I think generally, other than that, I like it very much. Yeah. What do you guys think, Melissa, Mike? What do you think?
I like it.
I think you did a pretty good job with it overall.
Yeah,
how long did it take?
Took a few hours. I started it during the week. I did this for the assignment for the landscape assignment.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but I didn't have it all finished, and so I turned it in, and I had it graded anyway, and then I finished it up.
I don't need to see the entire thing complete. I need to see enough of it to let me know that you're putting the effort in and that you're, you know what I mean? I'm not the type of person that demands you to have the thing completely done. I look at something and I judge your effort. If I see the effort has been put in, I will say so. If I don't believe the effort's been put in, I'll find a nice way to say it, but I'll say it because I'm that way. I mean, look, none of this is for me. This is all for you. It really is. And I mean, I already am a designer. I already know all this stuff. I already do my own work, and I have enough trouble with that as it is. So, I'm here to help you people. That's the way I feel about it. And, I don't really think I help you if I'm not critical as well as kind. In other words, I don't try to be mean, but I have to be honest and I have to be critical. If I don't think something has been taken far enough, I have to say something about it, If I see that you're working on something, even if it's not complete, but I see that a genuine effort's being made, that's what I'm looking for. And you can stop at that point and you'll get a good grade. You know what I mean? Because I see the effort there. I know that you're going to probably continue with this and come up with something even nicer, but the effort is in there already. If I see it, it's there. You know what I mean?
Yep. I didn't like it handing in an unfinished project, but I knew that it was finished enough that you could see what I'm doing with it.
That's what I'm looking for in all cases, really, And I'm also looking for, like Melissa, I think you were the one that did the really nice tomato.
Yes.
Yeah. I was really, really thrilled to see you do that. I can't even begin to tell you how thrilled I was that you did that and that you did it that well. I was hoping somebody would, and you were there for me. Thank you very much. You did a great job with that. That's why I wanted you to put it into the design club. Not for me. I wasn't looking for you to tell them that, I showed you how to do this. I wanted you to show them that you did this. You're a student at Independence University, and because you're here, you were able to learn how to do this. That is what I was looking for from you. Not so much to say, oh, Bill Sweeney helped me do it. Here's his video. That's nice that you did that because other people can see the video if they want to look at it. But the truth is, you did it. I maybe showed you how to do it, but if I could show you how to do all kinds of things, if you don't sit down and do them, what's it worth, right?
Well,
Very true.
I just thought it was cool that you showed us more to do for that project. If we'd have only done what the actual assignment was, boy, what a boring project. You could have had it done in 10 minutes.
That's the problem. Again, it's like the extra effort comes from you. When I show things, I know the projects sometimes are pretty boring, but sometimes people don't have the time to do more than that, or they don't have really the commitment to do more than that. But for those people who do have the commitment, if I have something better to show, I got 2 hours to fill here. You know what I mean? I got to go 2 hours tonight. I got to go 2 hours tomorrow night, and so I have to find things to do. So usually, I'll show how the thing should be done, and then maybe I'll try to take it a step further. That's what I try to do. And I try to do it in a logical way. And I thought, to working with the mesh tool is such a cool thing. And working on fruit like that is such a perfect vehicle for working with the mesh tool that I just couldn't resist. I had to do it,
Yeah.
All right. That's very good. So let's see. Let's go to the next one here. I'm going to close this stuff and close all. And let's go. I looked. All right. So candies. You did the candies too, didn't you, Eric?
Yes, sir.
So here's the candies. Mike and Melissa, do you know what the candies are all about? Did you see the candies that I made?
I watched the video.
Yeah.
Mike watched the video.
Yes.
Both.
Okay. Did you watch? You didn't see the video though, Melissa.
No, I did not, but I saw the pictures on Facebook.
Oh, you saw the pictures of it though.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so yeah, so this was a project that I did for a company that manufactures candies, and you know, I don't even think that this is the final output. Although I tell you what, Eric, I really kind of like your M&Ms. They really work pretty good. The one problem with this is I don't think you quite got the shadows worked out right. I think that's where you run into a problem here. The shadows aren't quite working. You really should have the shadows. There should be shadows underneath these objects so they look like they're sitting. These objects look a little bit like they're floating.
Yeah,
That's the real problem with it. But I like the general way that you did the candies, and I think what you did here, like this little graphic that you put on there, very logical graphic. This one you did very well. That came out really nice. And this actually came out really nice, you know? Yeah. And I think your colors are pretty good. Did you, where'd you get your colors from? Did you go to Cooler?
Actually, I got kind of lazy and just used the default colors.
Oh, okay. Use default colors. Oh, you lazy dog. Well, it worked. It worked.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not too bad. I don't use the default colors very often because, I don't know, I just figure that as a designer, I should be doing more. So I generally, if I can't come up with colors myself, or if I am not working with a color scheme, like sometimes I'll do work for people and I'm working with a color scheme, and of course I'm using their color scheme, so I have to use those colors. But if I have freedom to choose, then I will create my own colors, or I'll go to Cooler. And in the case of this project here, I actually did go into Cooler. And I think you saw this in my video where I showed you I went into Cooler and I looked up chocolate.
Yeah.
And there was all kinds of different chocolate groups. And I selected 2 or 3 chocolate groups and I saved them to one of my libraries. And then you can go in and you can, in Illustrator, there's a panel that enables you to sort of go in and access your saved library groups of colors. And I brought those colors in, and then that's what I was working with, those colors. But Cooler will come up with a bunch of really nice colors, and they had some decent colors for chocolate.
Yeah, I've used Cooler many times, and other color scheme helping websites too for many other projects. I just didn't use it here.
Right. Well, I'll tell you what I do like about this very much, Eric, is that, number one, you did a nice job with that dome candy. That looks great. And I'm very happy to see that those sort of like, oh, I don't know what you'd call them, little pie-shaped candies. I think you did a really great job with them. So you obviously understood what it was that I did to create that and were able to recreate it yourself.
Yep.
And you did a damn nice job with it. And I like the fact that you went on your own and you created the little M&Ms, and the M&Ms worked pretty good. Only thing I would say is maybe what you need to do with the M&Ms now, I assume the M&Ms were they also created using the rotate tool, the 3D?
Yep.
Okay, here's the one thing that I would recommend that you do. Don't have all of your M's line up.
Yeah, I know.
Make them a little more random. You can turn those symbols around and you can make them more random in appearance.
Well,
right now they're a little too lined up. You should maybe make them more random.
Well, what happened was I did try to do the map on top the same way for the other chocolates.
Yeah.
It didn't work right. It squished the M way too far in.
Yeah.
Because I guess that's just how it's mapped.
Yeah.
So I had to just make it blank and then put the M over top of it, outside of the.
Oh, so they're okay. Yeah, but you could still do something to randomize them. I think you could probably have worked a way to randomize them.
I could if I spent a little more time doing it.
But, yeah.
I just
it works though. They look like M&Ms pretty good. They're pretty good. They really work pretty nicely.
Yeah. I used the freeform tool to make the M perspective.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and I customized the M a little bit. I picked a font that had similar looking M to it, and then changed it so it looked more like the M. that they
Yeah,
use?
it works. The M's the M's are very convincing. I'll tell you one thing though, what you might consider doing. You might consider rendering your shape a little bit on the flatter side, because these are a little bit a little bit bulbous. You know what I mean? They're a little bit chubby for an M&M. If you really see an M&M, they're a little bit flatter than this. Probably you just needed to make that shape a little bit flatter, and you would have had a better M&M. That's actually, but your colors are good. The colors are great. The M's are pretty good. You just need to randomize them a little bit.
Yeah.
And I would say maybe try to create a shape that's just a little bit flatter. That will make a little bit more convincing M&M. And I think the other thing, too, is that you need to have a shadow underneath the objects so that it looks like they're sitting flat. If you take a look at mine, let's see if I can find mine for a second. Here, hold on. I'll try to show you what I'm talking about. Where's mine here? Week 4. Okay. I'm going for the critique board. Barda. Here we go. Yeah, here we go. Here's the newest one. This is the latest one. Okay, so you see what I'm saying here? You see how my shape has a shadow underneath it?
Yeah.
That's what you want. You want a shadow underneath it. That's not hard to do. All I did to make that shadow, and I think did I show that in the video, how I did that, or no?
I don't think so.
No. What I did essentially was I just created an oval shape, similar in shape to the bottom of this, in black. And I sort of let it sit down slightly beneath this, and I went up into the blur, and I put a Gaussian blur on it.
Mm.
And then what happens is it almost looks like now it's sitting flat on that purple sheet of whatever that is. And then, of course, to get the thing to reflect, I just basically turned them upside down and I did the reflection. I think Melissa knows how I did that because she used it in her tomato, right, Melissa?
Yes.
You know how I did that, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I showed it in the tomato exercise in class. Or no, I didn't do it in class. Where did I do it? Did I do it for you guys?
Yeah, you did it in class.
Okay, all right. So that's basically how I did it. That's the only thing that's missing on yours is that, you know, you should have that kind of shadow underneath it. So it really makes it look like these things are sitting flat on your, so it makes it look like they're sitting flat on your table here, your surface.
Yeah.
Okay, see how yours are not there, and it kind of almost makes them look like they're floating a little bit?
Yep.
Yeah, that's how you would do that. And all it is really is just an oval of black that's approximately the same rough shape as what the object is above it, and bring it down just a slight bit beneath it, not a lot, and then just go up into the filter blur, Gaussian blur, and put a nice Gaussian blur on it until you like the way it looks.
Yep, that's how I made those shadows there that are there.
Yeah, they're the back shadows, and that's okay. But you also have to remember that there will be a shadow of contact where these things sit on the table,
Yeah.
and that's missing. It's too extremely light here. There should be a little bit of a darkness underneath that to give it some weight. It almost gives it some weight, like it's actually weighty and sitting right on that platform.
Yep, I understand what you're saying. Yep.
But it's nice. You did a great job with it. I mean, I can see you really understood what I was doing. That's great.
Thank you.
Okay, so we did Arctic Landscape Candy. This is Meryl. I don't think Meryl's here. Okay, Meryl sent this in to me. This is her apple. And the problem with the apple is she did what she was supposed to do. The only thing is she didn't really develop a good shape here. The shape is kind of like very basic. She didn't do a bad job on creating the overall shape here, except that, you know, at the bottom, I'd like to see more happen with this bottom. I mean, the bottom is just kind of like not really very well formed for an apple. And then at the top, I mean, it kind of, again, gets very weak. You don't get a very good feel for an apple here. So while she handled the edges of this okay, she kind of failed up here to put in the kind of detail that would convince you to make it look like an apple. To me, it almost looks a little bit more like a cherry.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys think?
Yeah.
So I just think really a little bit more time spent on some details, because actually And the way she rendered the edges here, it looks like she does have some control. You know what I mean? If she had no control, she certainly wouldn't have been able to get these nice clean edges like she did here. But as I just think she needed to put a little bit of more attention to detail down here and up here. Other than that, she fulfilled the assignment. I mean, there's a gradient in the background, there's a color separating it, and there's a line. It's just I think she could have probably tried a little harder to come up with a better apple shape than she did.
Yeah.
And let's see. Okay, so this is what she submitted for her landscape. It's kind of incomplete. I mean, basically, she has a building started here, and it actually looks like something that might end up being kind of interesting. I really would like to see her do more with it, but unfortunately, there's not more there. I think she really needs to come up with more detail in her piece. Right now, it's just really a building.
Yeah.
I think it has the potential to be something kind of interesting graphically, but it just needs to be developed more.
And if she's using the tutorial that I used,
Uh-huh.
to read it closer, because it doesn't look like she did what the tutorial wanted you to do.
Uh-huh.
You know, yeah, I saw that same tutorial, the cityscape.
Yeah.
And I played with it some, did some with it, but I never got back to finishing it.
Right. Well, I just think it needs more. There needs to be more things to make this more of a scene. Right now, it's just a building, and it's kind of incomplete. You kind of don't get the feeling that enough's been developed to get a real sense of a scene. It's just a building, you know. So I'd like to see what she would come up with if she actually took it to its completion. Okay, this is, I think, this is yours, Mike. Now, let me ask you a question. This one here, is this the same stuff that I downloaded before, or is this different stuff?
This has a couple different, there might be some in there that you
All right,
already
well, you know what? Why don't we do this? Why don't we go through this, and then you can tell me what to open that's the other stuff.
All right.
Okay, so here's this classy lady. I think we've seen this.
This is a different one I did.
Oops. Whoa. There we go.
I matched up the lines a little bit better.
Uh-huh.
Try to make it a little bit bigger.
Yeah, I think you actually got a kind of a nice look going on this. I think this is kind of interesting. I think what you did...
This was the one, you remember when I told you when I did the C and the L, I had it looked like a G, and I said I had to solve that little G problem?
Yeah.
And I did this?
Yeah.
That's where that came from.
Well, this reads classy lady.
Yeah, but without the LASSY and the ADY, it actually just looked like a G.
Oh,
so
really?
That's what made me want to spell out the letters and then match them up, and that's how I broke up that G problem.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say overall pretty good. I think maybe you could probably work a little bit more here to try to strengthen that just a touch, just a little bit there. And here, I'm not sure you got this quite the way it should be. Maybe just these two little connector areas right there you need to play with just a tiny little bit. I think the way you got the C going and the L going works very well. This just needs a little tiny bit more work here and just a little tiny bit more work right there, and I think you'll have it. But it works. It reads classy lady, you know, and I can kind of get where you're going with that G, and I think the word LASSY and lady does solve that. But again, I will say this to you. I'm not sure that maybe your see how your LASSY is smaller than than ADY?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm thinking you probably want the LADY and the LASSY to be the same size. That's what I think. I think you need two levels of elements here. The capital C and the capital L needs to be one size, which they are. And I think the rest of the text needs to be the same size. So what I would do if I were you is I'd rethink this and work the LASSY in a larger size that is the same size as the ADY. And I think what will end up happening is it'll even be better.
I agree.
Let's see what the next one is here. Okay, see, and the CL. Yeah, this is working pretty good. I noticed, though, there's a little spot right there that you have to fix. You can see it. There's just a tiny little nip there. You have to see if you can go in there and sort of clean that up to make it seamless. But that's nice. It's a nice form.
You see how it looks like a G?
Yeah, it does a little bit like a G. It does.
That's what I did putting the letters in. So.
Yeah, it does look a little. It's a form. It's a nice shape. It's actually it's a nice shape. It's a nice shape. It's interesting. I could see you doing something with it. I really could. It's a nice shape. It just works pretty nice. One of the things that I would do if I were you, when you work on things like this, make them big. Since this is a vector program, you can go in and you can blow these things up real big. What I generally find when I work in vector programs, I generally make things real big. The bigger I make them, the better it is for me to go in and modify them. Then when I bring them down to the size where I'm going to use them, the little inconsistencies that I might not ever get out of the graphic that I create are minimized because they are brought down to size. Always work on things big. That's a really good way to do this stuff. Whenever you do it, always make them real big. Do your work large size, and then reduce them down.
Because one thing I keep forgetting is that even if we do them big, no matter if we size them down or whatnot, it's still going to be the same. And I just keep.
Yeah, you'll get used to that. You'll get used to it. You got to get used to this program. That's what's so great about Adobe Illustrator. It is a great program. You have the ability to make things big, and you can, bring them down small. So whenever you're working on something, right, Eric, Melissa, have you ever tried that? Making things really big when you work on it?
Oh yeah.
That's how you work, and then you can bring them down, and when you bring them down, you'll find that the inconsistencies are even less obvious. So keep that in mind.
Okay, but I do like how that came out, though. That one right there.
Yeah, it's a nice form. It's a really good form. I think you could do something with it. And here's the cat.
Yeah, that's that tribal cat that I did.
Yeah, that's great.
My
son's a tattoo artist, and he would appreciate something like that.
And I believe that's one that you have individually.
Sort of looks like my cat.
I like how it came out.
Yeah, it's nice.
But the reason why I put a lot of times I put bright colors or something in there just so it could break up while I'm doing the design.
Yeah.
But I'll end up changing those colors.
Yeah, it came out good. It's nice graphic shape.
I really like that.
Thank you.
Good job there. Yeah, pretty cool. How did you do those shapes?
Actually, I just used a pen tool.
Oh, yeah?
Over and over again.
So did you
Just different layers.
Did you create half? Oh no, you didn't, because they're all different shapes, kind of. See, what I generally do when I create something like this isn't exactly a full front face. I did a tiger. I did several tigers, and what I did was I created a half a tiger. And then what I did was I flipped the tiger and duplicated it and flipped the tiger. So I had a mirror image of the tiger. And then I moved things slightly, and I used tools like the blob tool and the eraser tool to do a little bit of carving to customize the other side so it doesn't look exactly the same. And I end up with a very close side-by-side simulation of a tiger's face. And I only had to do really half of the face. And then the other half, I just had to tweak a little bit. So it saved me a lot of work doing it that way.
See, one thing about this design that I was trying to do is if you look at the chest part of it, it kind of looks like it's kind of straightforward. But when you look at the face, it looks like it's kind of like looking to the right. So I kind of had to
it's looking up and to the right.
Yeah, it kind of like varies a little bit.
I think
So
you
that,
did a really nice job. The fore area, the chest area, I think you did a really nice job with that. That's handled extremely well. I mean, that flows, the face flows right into that chest, and the chest goes out in just the right way to make that thing look really good. I mean, it actually is a pretty nice design. The way you did it is actually a pretty nice design.
thank you.
What do you guys think?
I love it.
Nice, huh?
Great.
You're a cat person, right, Melissa?
Oh, all animals.
Okay. And here is a horse. This is awful big. I can barely get this thing on screen. Let me see if I can move it up.
Yeah, I don't know where that piece at the top is.
It's nice.
That's very nice.
Yeah, you
That's
did a
when
good job on that.
So,
Yeah, it's good. Really good.
Yeah.
I'd like to see you do my dog. I got a dog that almost looks like a horse. I'd like to see what you would do with him.
Send me a picture.
Yeah, I have a picture. Well, I don't know whether I have a picture that'll work. I have to get the right picture.
Well, when you're ready, just send me one.
Yeah, he's a big, thick, muscular dog that he's all muscle. You know what I mean? So he's like, this picture here almost reminds me of him because his jaw is like this, his nose is shorter, and his neck is very thick and very muscular like this. And of course, he doesn't have any of this. You know?
You have that dog that was in that movie Beethoven?
No.
That really big dog?
No. This dog is a Mastiff. It's a Cane Corso. It's an Italian Mastiff, and he is just like try to imagine a gigantic pit bull. That's sort of what he's like. He's like he's an enormous pit bull is what he is.
Okay.
Yeah, that's very good. You did a nice job. You got a good technique with this. And here's the eye. The eye's pretty good.
And I think that one you also have individually.
Okay. Yeah. I like the eye. I think probably what happens, though, is the gradient kind of makes it so you can't really see it. I think you might want to rethink the gradient on the actual piece. Maybe not all of it. Maybe the center part of the eye goes black, and then maybe just have the gradient here and here, because it kind of almost disappears a little too much, I think is what happens. Or try using a gradient with not as light, so you're going to go with dark and maybe something a little bit darker on the other end, maybe not so light, so it doesn't disappear quite as much. I don't mind it doing it here and here and here and here even. I think I actually like this up here. But when you get in here, this here, I kind of want to see more of that area there, you know? Because that's like the focus, really. That's where you really are focusing on. And and I even like the way this goes white at that point. But this should be just a little darker, I think.
Okay.
But again, the design is good. I mean, you do that very well. What's this?
And see, that was the correction I did to the MDC.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you remember the other one when you were talking about in that one video how it wasn't matching up, right? And you see, I still have that one little problem with the D and the C. If you look right, well, I'm pointing at my screen. I can't say if you look right there, but
I see it
right there. I still have that one little problem right there. But I think all I have
you can fix that. Again, I go back to what I was saying before. Make it really big. Take the thing and make it big. And then once you make it big, you can go in there and you can kind of like decide just where you want to carve that up and how you want to maybe put the little piece in to fill it out, so that when you bring it back down to size, you're not going to know that anyone was in there doing it because you did it big. That's the way to go with these things.
But I think the arrangement that I did on this one compared to the one before is a little bit better.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's what I would do. All right, so let's see here. As the X-Wing, we're going to go back to Eric. Wait a minute. Melissa, you didn't send anything in, did you?
No, sir.
Huh?
No.
Okay, it's okay. I just, I kind of, since you didn't, I'm focusing on these guys because they sent stuff in. So this is Eric's X-Wing. And you know something, Eric, this really is not bad. But I will tell you this. I would like you to keep this thing, and I assume you're going to keep working with Illustrator, because my feeling is that you probably like it enough that you probably will work with it. What I'd like to see you do is in like 2-3 years time, after you really learn even more, I'd like to see what you could do with Illustrator, because you have really done pretty well here. The other thing I would say to you is this: start thinking about using gradients to fill in this thing color-wise. Yeah. What I would do, I'd start off just working with basic black and white gradients. You know, just make all metallic surfaces, and try to work this thing so that there's areas that, you know, are one kind of gradient and areas that are different gradients, and wait till you see how that thing will suddenly come alive. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm sure it would. You know,
that is a lot of detail.
Yeah,
it is.
I zoomed in, did a lot of detail work. I used pictures for reference, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, yeah, there's lots of intricate detail. There's lots of lines all over the place.
So here's another little trick for you, Eric. You'll notice that this plane, and maybe this is something you already know and you already did, but you'll notice that this plane mirror images. Each side is exactly the same.
Yep.
So what you do is you build one side of the plane.
I sure did.
Is that how you did it?
Yep.
There you go. That's the ticket. When you do stuff like this, you just build one side of the plane, and then you just mirror image the other side of the plane, and you save yourself all that work. And I'll tell you, there's no better way to get perfection from side to side than just making one side. That's another little graphic designer trick for you in Adobe Illustrator.
Yep.
Always try to find a way to make something face you straight on, so that you can kind of build part of it and not the whole thing.
Yep, I drew the left side and then copied layers. So I had another copy of the left side on layers, and then I mirrored that.
That's right.
Put it over.
That's right. You guys know what he's talking about, right, Mike, Melissa?
Yes.
Oh, great.
Yeah, but one thing I've tried to figure it out is, like, if we do one side, how do we duplicate it and then flip it?
You just tell him, Eric, how do you do it?
Because usually I'm on my Mac and I'm usually on CS6, and it's kind of different.
It's really easy. Just in the object menu, there's the transform, and then in transform there's mirror or reflect or something like that.
I think flip horizontally, flip vertically.
Yeah, I think it's called reflect or mirror.
Okay.
Or something.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a couple of ways to do it. You can actually use in Illustrator here. I'll show you real quick. In Illustrator here, let's see if I can find an object that you're able to do it with. So where's my tools? Oh, what happened here?
Press tab.
What did I do here? Oh, hell.
Try pressing tab. Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
So if I come in here and if I make a star, let's make a star. There we go. Let's make a star. Okay, so I got my star. Let me hold the shift key down. There we go. Got my star. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to create a rectangle. And I'm going to make that rectangle just like that. And then I'm going to select both of these guys. And I'm going to go up into the window menu. And I'm going to open up Pathfinder. And I'm going to choose minus front. And I end up with half a star. Okay? So that's basically what I want to do is I just want to make a half a star. So if I click on that, select that star, I can rotate the star or I can reflect the star. So if I reflect the star, I can double click and I can come into the reflect and I can reflect it either horizontally or vertically. Okay? If I flip it this way here, Watch. See?
Okay.
I'm flipping it back and forth.
And then
So if I make this half a star and I hit vertical and hit copy,
Yep.
and now I've made a second half of the star, and if I'm careful, I can put those two stars back together and I end up with a star. And I think essentially that's what Eric is saying he did to create his X-Wing fighter.
Yep.
He built half of the star or half of the X-Wing fighter, and then he basically probably used object transform. Where is it? Effect.
Very first one. The object transforms the very first.
There it is. There it is. I don't really do this. I don't use this. I reflect. See, here it is. Reflect.
Yeah.
See, and when you do this, it's the same. It's the same panel.
Yeah.
I just go about it differently. I go here and get it. Same panel. Exact same panel. And then, of course, you're going to reflect it either horizontally or vertically. And then if you want to duplicate it, I mean, you can copy and paste it, but you can just literally say copy it. And there it makes the copy. And then you just move it over, and you've got your star back. And that's essentially what Eric did to create his X-Wing fighter. He actually created the whole half of the X-Wing fighter, grouped it, I assume, right? Eric, did you group it?
Yep.
And then you just selected the whole thing, and he went object transform where I went and used the transform or reflect tool. That's the only difference. It's just that. That's it. Okay, they both accomplished the same exact thing.
Yep.
But yeah, this is great. This is really nice. You did a great job on it.
Thanks.
Yeah, really nice. I really would love to see this thing after you start getting the gradients into this, because that will really make this thing look wild.
Yeah.
I made. You guys are familiar with the Wizard of Oz, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I rendered the Tin Man, and I rendered him from a picture. I rendered him the full figure, and I rendered him as perfect as I could render him. And then I used gradients on him. His whole body was gradients, and he came out super. I mean, just amazingly beautiful. And I think this would probably come out beautiful too once you start working a little tiny bit of color. Again, I don't know what the color scheme on one of these things is. I assume the image that you used was in color, or was it just a render similar to this?
Well, the one that I used was similar to that, but there is plenty of pictures of the real thing.
Okay, so what you'd probably want to do is you'd probably want to get a hold of one of them, and you would want to try to maybe copy the color scheme. But when you do it, try to render it as much as you can in gradient, because the gradient in this particular case will give it a much more three-dimensional feel.
Yeah. But there's two problems that I encountered.
What's that?
That's really weird. I couldn't make the stroke width less than 1 pixel on any shape that had a vertical or horizontal line. It's weird. Why
would you want it to be 1 pixel? That's a very fine stroke.
Well, I used all of these are either 1 pixel or half a pixel strokes.
Okay.
Because I wanted the fine lines. Well,
what I would tell you to do then is I would tell you to make it bigger. Make it bigger. Then you don't have to work with such small lines. If you made it bigger, you would have been able to use a slightly heavier line, and because of the size, it would have looked correct. Then maybe when you reduced it down, you might end up with something that still looks correct. When you use this tool right here, okay, when you use this tool right here, you see where it says scale rectangle corners, scale strokes and effects? Well, you can take that off, and when you bring something up or smaller, you will not scale these strokes or the effects. So that means that your strokes and effects will stay the exact same size if you go bigger or smaller. You understand?
Yeah.
With this on, what it's going to do is it's going to try to adjust the size of your strokes for size. So if you go bigger, it's going to make them slightly bigger so that they keep kind of uniform. If you remove that, it will not scale your strokes. Your strokes will stay the same. So if you go bigger, I don't know, you'd have to try it and see whether that works for you.
Yeah. But the other one was kind of weird too. It wouldn't let me place precisely. It kept snapping to a different area.
Well, that might be because of the size of this thing. I don't know how small you made this, but a lot of times, well, the other thing too is it could be the size. It could also be that if you go up to the view menu, you could have guides. You have maybe your smart guides.
Yeah.
Let's see, snap to grid, snap to point.
Yeah.
Maybe you have snap to point selected. Snap to grid. If you have those selected,
I'm not sure, but I think I didn't have those.
And the other thing is, it might have been the size. It might have been a size issue.
Yeah.
It might have been that this thing is actually pretty small. I find that when I make things really small, I have trouble moving tiny little distances. When I get things too small, they kind of jump from pixel to pixel, and I can't ever place things in a very finite way. That's because I've reached a point where I'm working too small.
Well, I was working kind of small, but I don't think I was working that small, but I could be wrong.
I don't know. It would seem to me that that's a possibility. I can't say that that's for certain, but that's a possibility.
Well, if you go back to my drawing,
I
can tell you an instance. Like the very center, that octagon in the very center. Yeah, and then you see the circle inside of it. I was trying to make the circle precisely in the middle of that rectangle. But
right. No, that suggests to me what I was telling you, that it's either a snap issue or it's a size issue. And you've got it to such a size, it actually looks sort of like you might have a little bit of the same problem here. This looks like it might be heading in that direction a little more than that direction.
Yeah.
This too, see that? It's heading a little bit more in that direction than that direction.
Yeah, yeah.
What I would do if I were you is I would make my artboard much bigger, and I would select the entire thing, and I would use this tool here, and I would bring the thing up maybe 300%.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you bring it up 300%, if you keep the scale on it, okay, the scale will scale the size up, but not ridiculously. And then once you bring it up to 300%, you can try to see whether you can then sort of maneuver these elements into the position that you want. That might be what the issue is. Is this also supposed to be centered, or is it supposed to be off to the right like that?
That one's supposed to be off to the right.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I made those after I reflected it and added those details in the center.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that looks. I see your point. This is a little bit off here, and this is a little bit thicker over here. So my guess is that that's maybe what it is. That's possibly. I think that's probably a pretty good guess. Usually, you can tell by if you select it, and if you just hit the right arrow or the left arrow and see how it jumps.
Yeah.
If it jumps only a tiny bit, you're okay. If it jumps a good bit, then you know it's a size issue.
Yeah.
I have that happen to me all the time.
Huh.
When I've worked with stuff that's on a small artboard, a lot of times if you just zoom way in, it allows you to move it in smaller increments than if you're looking at the whole picture too.
Well, that's true, but only, Melissa, if you're on a bigger piece of art. If your art gets really small, the problem is that it is so small and it is jumping a pixel, which in the size of that small piece of art is a big jump. If it's a really big piece of art, 1 pixel is nothing. But when it starts getting really small, and maybe that's what's happening here, that 1 pixel, and especially when you're sticking it in a tight little area like that, Melissa, you see what I mean? There's a certain area there. If he moves 1 pixel over, you know where I have this problem a lot, Melissa and Eric, with type. When I'm working with type, if I'm moving pixel by pixel on type, I find that if I'm working in real small area with a smaller type, sometimes have a hard time placing it exactly where I want it.
Yeah. Yeah, and the more I think about it, I think it probably was a size issue because
Yeah.
after I was finished the whole thing, I realized that it was a little too small, and I increased the size. I made it bigger
Yeah.
after I was done drawing. So if I
Yeah.
made it bigger first, I may or may not have had that issue.
Well, here's what I suggest you do. Save this. Create a new one. Go in and zoom it out so that you have an area around your artboard. Make your artboard big, pretty big. Select your entire piece of art and scale it up like 300%. And then take a look at it and see what it does. Because you can scale the lines appropriately using the scale tool. Don't use this tool. Use the scale tool. Scale it up 300%. Then go in and those couple of little areas that you want to try to see whether you can nudge them around a little bit and get them to kind of finesse into a better position. Once you've made them big like that, see if they won't now go into a better position for you. I bet they do.
Yeah, maybe. I will try that.
Yeah. I like this, though. You did a really great job with it, and I really would love to see what you do with this when you put color into it, because that will really make this thing pop in a big way.
Yeah, I'm going to do that. I will do that when I get a chance.
Always save a copy of this, and then this way you can go in and you can mess with it, and if anything goes wrong, you can always go back to the, original.
Yeah, I already put that in my my backup files. So
Okay.
I have them on a cloud drive, and I already put that in there.
Okay, so let's see. I think X-wing. I have. Is there anything we in here that I haven't looked at? Can
The Infinity logos.
Which one?
The Infinity logo.
Oh, okay. All right. Now I remember this. Yeah, actually, you know what's wrong here? I think there's probably a little too much going on. That's what I think my criticism was when I actually looked at this. While I like it, I just think there's too much going on. I think the infinity with the gradient back and forth is good, but I think then with this, I think it's too much. That was my problem with it. It was just too many things going on with this. It probably would be better if it was simpler. I mean, maybe this just is black and white, or maybe the gradient is over the entire thing. But with this doing this and this doing that, I think there was a little too much with it. That was my criticism of it. I like the way the infinity works. Maybe the word infinity could be, again, just a little bit bigger. Maybe you could get the infinity to kind of like be as wide as this. See what I mean? A little bit bigger. And I don't know, maybe try either making it black or making it the same gradient as this. Maybe that would work a little bit better. But I think you got one thing going on here, and then you got something else going on here, and it kind of makes you scratch your head and wonder a little bit, like what's
not that uniform.
Huh?
It's not that uniform.
It's not that it's not uniform. It's just that I think you got one too many thing going on. I think probably the infinity. If you're going to try, I would try maybe doing both of the elements with that kind of crazy tiger, zebra look. Try maybe both of them with the zebra look, and try maybe both of them with this gradient look, and see how that works. And also try it in black and white and see how it works in black and white. That's always important, to make your logos in black and white as well, because at some point or other your logos have to work in black and white. Somewhere along the line you're going to have to use it. You know what I mean? You can't always get away with a gradient.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe also try, instead of just like a black and white gradient, try a black and a different color gradient, like maybe a black and a gold gradient, or a black and a purple gradient. You see what I mean? Try some color and see what kind of feeling you get with that. You got to experiment a little bit with it. But I think the problem with this is I like the word infinity on its own, and I like the symbol on its own, but I think together they sort of clash. They sort of fight. and that's not what you want them to do. So you're going to use one or you're going to use the other. Try it and see which one works better. Did you try using the zebra stripe on that infinity symbol?
No.
No? Okay, you should try that. See what that looks like. Try, experimenting a little bit with it. But again, try to keep your elements as simple as possible. Don't, add too many different things. That's generally what's going to muddy up a good design, is when you go too far and add too many different things. If you take a look at a lot of designs, you'll see many times they're a lot simpler than you might think they would be.
There's another one I did, which evidently looks like I didn't send you. It has the same infinity type font.
Yeah.
But it's just like I drew out the top of a car.
Oh, yeah, I think I saw that. I don't know where that went, but I think I saw it with the top of the car.
Yeah, and that was basically, a simple design.
Yeah.
But with the same type of font.
Yeah. I just think that there's too much going on with it. That's what I think, really. I like the infinity. If that infinity was used by itself for some purpose, I would like it. But, as a logo with the other symbol, I think with the gradient and then with the infinity in that text, I think there's just too much. I think you probably should be thinking more along the lines of simplifying it a little bit, making it a little bit simpler.
Okay.
And also, as I say, maybe try making that word infinity just a touch bigger. Again, there's a balance that goes on when you create symbols like this. There's a balance, and it's you really have to hit that balance. It takes practice to do this. It's something that you do a lot of before you actually do a lot of graphic design before you get a good sense of balance on this. And I noticed that a lot of times you have a tendency of making one thing bigger than the other and not balancing them properly. I think in time and experience will get you to the point where you'll know how to balance things a little bit better. That's where I see. I like the design work that you do. I think you do some interesting stuff, but I just think that you have to get a better sense of balance between your elements. That's the one thing. And again, I learned this stuff. I mean, it was not something that I invented. It was something that I learned. You learn these things. You learn them from people who tell you, Yeah. You're learning the same way I learned is really what it comes down to. Okay. Anything else with this? Anybody?
How did you do that Affinity font? Is that just the font you found, or did you actually?
I downloaded it from thefont.com.
All right, that's cool.
So that font looks like that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's another thing I want to ask you to avoid doing. That's really not a very good idea. The reason that that's not a good idea is very simple. Because if you can go down and download that font, Bill Sweeney can download that font, Eric Scott can download that font, Melissa Murphy can download that font, and we could, each one of us, submit that same font to one of our customers, and there would be 4 different logos out there that looked pretty much the same. You see the problem?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you really have to be careful when you create logos for people to try to come up with something truly original, something that Eric, Melissa, and Bill aren't going to come up with for, Joe's Pizza Parlor or Freddie's Haircut Parlor. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to be real careful about stuff like that. That is definitely one of the things that you have to watch out for. And this is something that a lot of people do. They don't realize that, gee, this font looks really great. Well, you know what? There's probably maybe 5 or 6 to 10,000 people besides you that think that font looks pretty great. And they're going to grab that font. They're going to use that font. You see what I mean?
One of the things I kept keeping in mind when I was doing the font was to stay away from that the same font that I've been using.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I have to tell you something. I use Myriad Pro all the time. People could think literally that I'm out of my mind for using Myriad Pro. But it's a very good font. It's very clean. It's very readable, and it has a lot of different types of weights to it. And I use it a lot. I really do. So it is the kind of thing that people who are designers a lot of times pick several fonts that they really like, and they stick with those fonts. And there's a reason. Because again, you learn economy as a designer. You don't do 50. Don't try to do 50 different things in a design. You find 5 or 6 really good things in a design, and you develop that design. If you go and you do another design for somebody else, you develop 5 or 6 other things, maybe 3 for another design. That it's economy. There's a certain balance of elements that you're working with, so that you don't get something that looks like a carnival. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, I'll tell you another thing. I can almost understand why you would like that infinity, because you just showed us all 4 or 5 really excellent tribally looking designs that you created. And this sort of suggests that tribally kind of look. So I could easily see in my mind why that would be a very appealing looking font to you, Mike. Am I right?
Yeah.
That's why you would like that, because it kind of it does have a very tribally look that is very similar to the kind of thing that you were just showing us in your cat and your horse. So there you go.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's now 8:42. I know we have tomorrow night. I'm going to cut this out right now. And I want to talk a little bit about our assignment for the week. I have a couple of things here I want to start showing you. I'm going to put this stuff away. Tomorrow night when we come in here, and I hope you guys come back tomorrow night. Tomorrow night what we're going to do is we're going to spend pretty much the entire night just play around with 3D modeling. So here's what I got. I got 2 things right here. Actually, these I should hold off till tomorrow night. I'm going to show you this, and I'm going to actually show you this. Your assignment, let me go in and get the assignment. Your assignment is actually this. And once again, I think they've kind of like shorted you. Let's see, where is it? It's the tanks, where is it? Bottle, here it is. Yeah, there's your 3D bottle. Okay, so this is the 3D bottle that they gave you. So I guess they figure that, oh, and by the way, you don't get this. You get this. Have you guys gone in and looked at your 3D bottle yet?
Yeah.
Okay, you don't get this, do you?
No.
You get this.
Yep.
So in other words, they're doing a lot of the work for you. Again, all they're asking you to do in this assignment is to design a label and wrap a label around here. It's all the assignment is. So if you, and again, you see what's happening here? Watch. Let me click on that. You see those little points right there and those little points right there?
Yeah.
See them? Those little anchor points? Let me zoom in and I'll show you them better.
That's where the label goes?
Yeah, you know why? Because, see, every time you have a point on here, this is the thing that you have to learn about the 3D modeling program. Every time the 3D modeler locates a point, it's using that point as a reference to generate the 3D object. So a lot of times you'll see little lines created where some of these points exist because maybe some of the points are a little bit off. Now, these points here are deliberately off. They're deliberately off because it wants to create essentially a dent. It's the same principle that I used when I created my pens. I knew that if I created these little offset dents and stuff, I would create levels or layers that would give me high and low, and that would give me shadow and light. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is what I am trying to make you understand, that when you come in and you play with this stuff, okay, what you want to do is you want to take something like, here's my Pepsi bottle. You take a look at the parameter or the edge of this Pepsi bottle. And what you're going to do is you're going to come around and you're going to try to put some of these shapes into this Pepsi bottle. But guess what? There's 2 areas to this bottle. There's a cap area, and then there's the bottle area. Forget the label, because the label's separate. That's going to be put in separately, okay? But you're going to create a cap, and then you're going to create a bottle, and you're going to color the bottle, and you're going to color the cap. And you're just going to create an edge like this, or an edge, where the heck is it? An edge like this. Okay? Now, they created actually a closed edge. You don't even need to make these closed edges. You don't need that. You just need the edge. You don't even need to make them closed edges. It's 46 now. The night's almost over. When we come in tomorrow night, I'm actually going to physically render this for you. And I'm going to show you how I would go ahead and do this. I will show you a couple of other things real quickly tonight just to kind of fill in that I think are kind of interesting. Let me go back up a little bit. But tomorrow night, we're going to focus on just 3D the whole night. Let me go in here and let me find my chess piece. This is something that's kind of, I didn't show you this yet, did I? Did I show you the chess piece yet?
Yeah.
Yes.
I did. Okay. Well, this is the chess piece. This is basically what I did is I went in and I found the chess piece and I rendered it. Since I showed it to you, I won't bother. Let me go back here. All right, you saw my candy. And I have aluminum candles. These are some of the things that I did. These are some jobs that I did. Did I show you this?
No.
No.
All right, so what this basically is, that's the shape right there. And I actually cut the shape in half so that I could get the bottom portion of this and the top portion of this. And then what I did was I literally created, this is essentially a candle. This is actually something for Yankee Candles. Have you ever heard of Yankee Candles? It's a candle company.
Yeah.
So yeah, so this is a candle. It's a Christmas tree ornament candle. And this was just basically a 3D mock-up that I did. And if you take a look at this, okay, if I come over here and if I click on this guy, I got it locked, I think. Let's go. Oh, this thing, I don't know what I did with this. This thing, I can't. This is in my way. I don't know what I did with that. Go to the layer. Yeah, see, everything's locked. Let me unlock it all. So if I come over here and click on that, I can come into the window menu and I can go to appearance and I can hide the 3D revolve, and there is my shape. That's the shape that I use to make my candle. And it's the same with this. If I click on that, if I hide 3D revolve, there's the shape that I use to make that top part of my candle. So if I put this back, and if I come over here and click on this, and if I put that back, I end up with my 3D revolve. Now, of course, when you go back and put the 3D revolve on, not only do you put the 3D revolve on, but you also put on the element that you have applied to the surface. Remember, you can put surface decoration on these things, right? So that's basically how I did this. Now, you'll notice that when I go in here and click on this and hide it, if I move this out of the way, you see here, this top, I had to render that separately. I rendered that separately. These are a couple of little shapes that I created separately. There's 4 little shapes that I had to create in order to make that thing look like a candle. So you see what I'm doing here? I'm literally going in and I'm kind of rendering this whole thing piece by piece until I end up with my candle that looks like a fairly realistic looking candle.
Yeah, it looks really great.
So, I mean, and then of course up here, this is another rendered object. And then this thing here is a label that I created separately. And I actually used a couple of techniques to get that to look like that's in the angle. I distorted it. And then the other thing that I did was I created the looping here. Okay, I created this loop here, which is the ring, which you would hang it on the tree. And then this is the little loop that holds your label on. And then see, once I did that, I could very easily just take this and duplicate it. Okay, so I have this one over here. I duplicate it, and I take the top off of it and put it down over on the side, and then build my candle, and I sit them next to one another, and I got what it looks like closed and what it looks like open. So in the end, you can do a lot of different stuff with this. You just have to play with it. Since we don't have a lot of time left, I'm not going to go into a lot of the details of how to do this. I'm just going to show you some stuff real quickly. When we come in tomorrow night, though, I will go into greater detail with all this. Here's a little can of cat food that I rendered. And this one here, I didn't even create a profile for this. This one is very easy. All I really did with this one, this is a very basic one. I just came in here and I rendered myself a circle like that. And then what I did was I literally just applied a color of gray to it, okay, and no stroke. Now this one is not a revolve. This one is an extrude. So what I did was I went into Effect 3D and I went to Extrude and Bevel and I hit Preview and there it is. And all I did was, see the blue surface?
Mm-hmm.
That's that front surface. I want that to look like a can sitting in the same general position as this. So what I did was I kind of rotated this up, the blue up, until I got it into a position that suggests that one on the left. Let me see if I can get it fairly close. That's actually pretty close right there. There you go. You see?
Mm-hmm.
And then what I did was I added, oh, I don't know, I think this was about maybe 80. Let's try it and see. Probably a little bit more. It's probably about 90. 90. Let's try 90. That's probably good enough. Yeah, that's probably good enough for our purposes. Okay, so now I've got my can generally. And then what I did was I played around with the lights a little bit. So I wanted the lights to be a little different. So I brought that light up on the top here. So I got this nicely lit. And I added another light over here. And now I got a light on the side. And I can play with that light. And I can get that light to do what I want it to do. And see how I got blend steps?
Mm-hmm.
Right now I got 25 blend steps. I'm going to bring this way up. And what's it doing? Come on, show me. Well, it didn't really show me very much. Let's change the light intensity as well. There. Well, actually, I like the light intensity. Highlight intensity. That's probably what I want. Let's try that. There we go. I want the highlight intensity a little bit less. Bring the highlight intensity down somewhat. And maybe the highlight size, let's bring the highlight size all the way up. There, that's not bad. Let's bring it down a little bit. Yeah, that's even better. So now you've got something, and I can, again, continue to play around with the positioning of these lights until I get the light where I want it. I like that. Okay? And then, literally, all I did to get this can to work, I created this shape. And there's another shape that I created right here. I'm going to go to the window menu and I'll show it to you. Oh, I got to actually accept this. Hold on. Let me accept this. Hit OK. OK, go to the window menu. I'm going to go to symbols. And in here, I got two symbols. I got this cap, which I made. I created that from a cap that I actually found online. They actually showed what a pop cap looks like online, and I rendered it. I rendered it, Eric, exactly, pretty much, I think, the way that you rendered the X-Wing fighter, except that this is a bottle cap. And instead of mine just being a regular white and black line, I added gradient to it to make it look sort of like what the top of a can would look like. You see my point?
Yep.
So actually, Eric, if you were going to go in the same direction that I went with this, with your X-Wing fighter, yours would be more sensational than this, but it would come a little bit more to life. See my point?
Yep.
Yeah. And then, of course, the other symbol, I'm going to go back out of here. The other symbol is this guy right here, which is the label that I put on the side.
I would like to see that X-Wing fighter in 3D.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would be phenomenal in 3D, but it would also be impossible to do in Illustrator in 3D. You can't do that in Illustrator. It's just way too much. You would have to literally go into a high-end modeling program like Maya or something like that to try to render that in 3D.
That would be cool, though.
It would cost you a lot, and it would take a lot in terms of learning curve. So here's what I'm going to do real quickly, and then we'll call it a night. I'm going to go back in here. I'm going to go to Window. I'm going to go to Appearance. This is a very important thing for you to understand, is when you're working with 3D modeling, you want to go back in and you want to re-access your model. Make sure it's selected, and you're going to double-click to re-access your 3D environment from Appearance. Don't ever try to go up into Effect and get at it from here. You can't do that. You got to go here. Got it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so come in here, and you're going to hit preview, and then you're going to go map art, and you got to get this out of the way. And now you've got different surfaces. Fortunately for you, you don't have too many. So you got 1, 2, and 3. You see the little red line there? That's telling you what surface you got. So I click on this, and I'm going to get my cap, and now I got my cap on there. And let's see if I hit scale to fit. There you go. And I just hit scale to fit, and I hit OK, and I hit OK, and I deselect it, and there I got my cap on it. Easy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And now we select it again. Double click on this and come in here again, map art. And I'm going to go and I'm going to get my next piece of the, that's the bottom. There's the side. And now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to get my label. And I'm going to apply my label to it. And I guess it's going to now be difficult. Preview. Okay, I got to hit preview. Okay, so there it is. And this, for some reason, I don't know why it is, but this thing likes to go backwards for some strange reason. And it's all upside down. I don't even know why this is. It's weird how this thing is working tonight.
Oh, maybe because the 3D is upside down. Go back to where you can position the 3D and turn it around.
What do you mean? Turn this thing?
No, go back to the original. You can do that too, but but I mean, go back to the extrude and bevel option.
There it is. There it is.
Yeah.
There it is. It's now in there, but it's also huge, so I have to bring it down in size. You start bringing this down in size and start placing it. There we go.
That seems very counterintuitive.
Well, sometimes it does this. Other times it does not. I'm not exactly sure what it is that causes it to do this, but it does occasionally do that. It does occasionally, for some reason, want to make things go backwards. I don't understand quite why that is. Now it's just really a matter of placing that label and sizing that label to where you want it. And then eventually, you know, you got to keep fooling with it and fooling with it and fooling with it, and eventually you'll end up with this, okay? And hit OK. You'll end up with this, actually this, okay? You can kind of see where I'm heading with it. When you work on stuff like this, there's a certain amount of tweaking that always goes on, but you can see that I pretty much got it fairly close. But that's the whole idea with this, is that, you know, you're going to create a label. This is a label for a can of cat food. You're going to create a label for a bottle, and you're going to apply it to your bottle, which I guess is this bottle right here. Okay. However, tomorrow night I'm going to do a Pepsi bottle for you, and I'll show you how my aluminum can works, and I'll show you some other stuff. And, you know, I kind of would like to see maybe if you guys could try rendering your own bottle. You know, I mean, if you don't want to do it, fine. Use the bottle. Do the. But Melissa, you know what I'm talking about. The assignment usually is kind of dull, and frankly, you know, you could probably do more exciting things if you put a little effort into it.
I don't like that blue bottle. I can't wait to make my own.
All right, so I'm going to show you how I make my bottle tomorrow night. That's one thing we'll do, and we'll do that together, and then you'll be on your way to be able to go out and get your own bottle. And again, there are all kinds of crazy bottles out there. Go out and get a crazy bottle. I mean, you know, there's all sorts of really cool shaped bottles. Find yourself a cool shaped bottle. Remember, when we look at this tomorrow night, you'll see we're just making one edge of this shape. We're not going to be making anything more than that. Very simple, but the more accurate and the more detail you put into your shape, the better looking your shape is going to be in the end. So keep that in mind, because that's what we're going to try to do tomorrow night. Everybody good?
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna call it a night. I'm glad you all came. Please come tomorrow night. I look forward to seeing you all, okay?
I'll be here.
All right. So you have a good night, and I'll see you tomorrow night.
All right.
All right. Good night. Thank you.
All right. See you tomorrow.